Hello.
Hey,
Oh, heart is racing.
it's okay. What's going on?
This happens every time I come to speak up. And it's really beautiful having your meditation and just really paying attention to how that's assumed as me. It's like, oh yeah, look, that's me. The heart is racing. It's anxiety. It's me. I am anxious. Yeah, I'm interested to get your thoughts, to hear your thoughts. Um, Yesterday was pretty wild. It's like the hurricane pass, and yeah, for whatever reasons of what I've been doing a lot of recently, just concentrated time on inquiry and meditation, and feels like things are really clearing, in different ways. And
Amazing.
yeah, it just feels like this really strong, big, like, yeah, like something's just like, what the fuck? Like really deeply, shatteringly, like, what? What? Like, and I feel like there's a dynamic that's become really clear. And this is kind of part of where I'm interested to hear what you say. It's been a relationship a connection I've been a part of for a few years. And there's like how I'm seeing it now is like something just feels off.
Hmm.
But it's felt like this for years.
Hmm.
And I've just come to this place now of like, fuck. I don't know. It feels like self abandonment. It feels like, and I've had these experiences before in relationships with men where I've stayed in something that's felt toxic. And I'm curious as what you have to say about the word toxic. Um, Something that's felt toxic, either because I had no idea what was going on, or then when I became this spiritual identity before stuff then shifted differently, I then felt I had to stay in this thing because I was doing the work. And if I left, I then wasn't doing the work. It was like
Hmm.
this really weird
Yes.
thing.
Yeah.
Um, and I love this person, but something just feels really off. And it has done for years. And I'm just now in this place of like, wow, okay, is this, there's a dynamic with, I don't want to talk about them too much because I don't want, they might come on here at some point.
Hmm.
They're in non-duality. But
I
there's this
yeah.
dynamic with someone else.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just want to say that whatever is going on in you, you can talk about that completely freely without talking about anybody else because it's not about them.
No. Yeah.
You don't need to. When I had my course in Denmark, it was like a rule that nobody was allowed to share anything personal about themselves. They were not allowed to say if they were married, if they had a job, if they had children, anything. So it would, if they were addressing something happening with their husband, they would say, a person in my life activated a feeling of neglect. And then we will look at the feeling of neglect. It has nothing to do with anybody. Everybody out there are just a diversion from us to talking about the real deal. So you don't need to mention anything personal about the other person. You don't need to be concerned or worried about them coming on and knowing that it's them you're talking about because it's not about them. This is about you. This is about that a clarity happening in your life. Something has been lying like a little sprout for years and years and years. So sometimes you have had a clarity to see it very, very clearly, but for some reason you have put soil on top of the little sprout over and over and over, and now it's just clear that there's something completely fucked up here. There's something, a dynamic that is unhealthy, that doesn't work in you. It's got nothing to do with the other person. It's a clarity in you.
Yeah, thanks for bringing me back to that. That's helpful. I like that a lot. Yeah, okay. So it's mm, there's a dissonance in the way that we connect emotionally and
Mm,
in the way that we communicate. And there is like this consistent feeling like it's not meeting.
mm,
And there has just been this constant attempt to meet and it's not meeting. And
mm,
it's like, I wouldn't do this with people normally, but because there's been this attachment to this, and I'm curious to see, God, there's a few things in here. I'm curious to see if having a break from this dynamic can help clear the parental veils that I feel have come up that are clouding my vision and my reality of that person and that person's reality of me. It's like, how will this be without that bullshit of that conditioning? As much
mm.
as it's been helpful this time, it's like, that's one thing. Um,
May I ask you just before we're moving on, when you say that there's something in the meeting that is off, how does a real meeting feel? How do you know that something is off in your body, in your direct experience, not in thoughts of we should la 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 in your mind, but in your body? How does that dissonance feel, and how do you expect it to feel if there was a real meeting? Do you know what I'm asking?
yeah, it feels depleting
Yeah.
and it feels completely like unreceived. It's like there's just this
Yeah.
like totally like, and it's not about being misunderstood and that being a problem, but it's just like totally like not hearing what I'm saying. Like just it's hard to describe.
Yeah, but
But I
it's
know what it feels like when I'm with a friend and when I'm chatting with you. I
yeah,
know.
exactly, exactly. It's about because if you always feel that you're not heard, and you always feel that the love you give is never received, and it's like that with basically everyone, then you know it's an I issue. You know, it's you need to look at that. But if there's something particular with some people that they represent something deeper than just a partner or a colleague or a friend, or they represent something deeper, and you feel that the love you give is not received, and the things you say or the direction you want of the conversation, it's not going in that direction that you want it to go. um Obviously it's still about you, but it's a layer deeper, if you know what I mean,
Mhm.
because it reminds you of something.
Yeah, which is where I question the parental projection.
Yeah.
And also because I do see that there is there is a bodily shift in me quite a lot of the time. And
Yeah.
I know from what this person said that, and from how things have unfolded and happened, that there is, I see it. It's like we're both so much more playful and different naturally. And then we come together and there's just this,
Yeah.
um,
It's very much about setting you free and setting them free, you know? but also setting the parental figure free that you want. For example, let's say you want daddy's love, so you find a partner that you really have to fight for feeling love from, just like you had to do with your dad. I mean, you need to set all three parties free. You
Yeah.
know, you need to set dad free. He's never ever gonna love you the way that you need it. You need to set the partner free that, you know, he's never ever gonna do it the way that you want it. He's gonna do it the way that he does it. And set you free that are limiting your receiving of love to a very, very narrow way of receiving. I had a woman in a course once where all she wanted was her dad to say, I love you. And he didn't. He only gave her power tools. And it wasn't until that we talked about it, but if he cannot say it with words, how would he, with his entire life, his upbringing, the person that he is, if he cannot use words, how would he describe it? And she was like, fuck, he would describe it with power tools. So she found out that there was lots and lots of love coming all the time from her dad, but not the way that she needed to receive it. And it's about setting, you know, everyone free, you know, including yourself. Thanks, Dad. Another saw, electrical saw. Thank you. I love you too.
So in that, over the past few years, I feel like I've been saying yes to it, to sit in the fire of everything that's come up with it. And I wouldn't change any of it. It's been like alchemical, just, that just, yeah. And there's been a lot of times where I felt like having some time apart from each other would be really helpful. But then I wonder if I've gone into this kind of bypassing it and labeling it as a Feta 5. Is that a version, Feta 5? Mm-hmm. And telling myself that I'm going into aversion by giving ourselves time out from this thing. Mm. And now I'm like, I might have just fallen back into that old pattern of thinking I need to stay in something toxic because I'm just calling it a Feta 5, when actually this voice is now going, have a fucking break. Stop. Like, no more. Like, yeah, this part of me is just like in self-abandonment going, stop it. Like, come back.
Yeah.
What is it that makes you go up to the head all the time instead of having that clear bodily voice of fucking body, no, not want to do it. I don't want to. Why do you go up and minimize the experience in your mind and talk yourself into things that, what is that about? What would happen if you go like, no more?
Yeah, I think it's because of a lot of the it's just been the most, like, if I could paint a picture of my journey from like the big shifts that started years ago to now, and it'd be like this 3D experiential picture of the people that have come in and everything I've experienced. Yeah, this person has been like, its attachment to one of my sort of last anchors of safety of having known. It's like the coping mechanisms of bulimia and alcohol and spending money all dropped away when I'd met him. And I was totally destabilized.
Yeah.
And I ended up living with him. And he's just been this beautiful, creative, grounded support with a routine. He's a furniture maker, he's just this really lovely being. And yeah, he's provided a beautiful space for me. And I feel like that's what's partly been like, it's like my sweeties. It's like, yeah, I surrender, but not that bit. Mm.
So what does it bring up for you in the body with that I will surrender but not that bit, with that feeling of what you're going to lose by putting this on pause? Is it how do you feel what comes up?
It shifts at the moment. So when there's clarity, when I'm not in the head story stuff, in the waves, is a feeling of abundance.
Mm.
It's a feeling of anything's possible. I have no idea what this is, but it's like spaciousness.
Yeah. And if the head starts to do its job and come in and create all the stories, then what happens to it?
It's a loss and like a part of myself. It feels like in the heart area, it's like that's like I'm having to give that. I'm having to leave something behind.
And it's beautiful that you've had that experience, and it's beautiful that he was there for you. And there, it's not to say that in the future maybe something will work out again. It's just in this moment being aware of how you really feel in the body without all of the stories locking you into needing something to maintain, because it helped you get past these dark times.
He's also leaving the raft.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, like the Buddhist metaphor of, you use the practice to like a raft to cross the river, but then once you've crossed the river, you don't carry the raft with you all through town. It's that same idea that, the raft was helpful back then, but in this moment now, maybe it's not as helpful. And, I'm sure he's still a beautiful person. All of that has nothing to do with him, as you said. It's just the dynamic of what is happening between you two or within you in this moment, and then responding to that as opposed to responding to the stories of how things used to be and the fear of how things might be without him. Because I'm assuming there might be some fear about regressing in, some of these things that he seemed to help you let go of. Is there concern about that going forward without him?
No,
Good.
no.
Yeah,
He doesn't feel like a crutch for that. He doesn't feel like, yeah, that's all just.
Good.
I'm also thinking about the whole identification thing. If we keep it at the non-dual end about identification and attachment,
Mhm.
that the Sophie that went into the relationship had a certain type of identification, and in the relationship that the hooks to that identification, to the alcohol, the bulimia, the shopping, the consumerism, all of that was detached. And a lot of other things that you haven't mentioned was detached as well, which create a completely new starting point.
Mm.
And together with him, you started to create into another identification, which it seems like now you are at another point. You are at the shore, and it's time to detach all of those types of identification. And again, it's got nothing to do with him at all.
Yeah.
It's just the identification, the very subtle identification that you have in your life now. You can feel it feels toxic. It's holding you back. You're not expressing yourself the way that you want to express yourself. So again, just like it was back with the bulimia, where there was no expressing of you, it was lots of attachment to that. Now it's just a different type of attachment, and it's just unhooking, setting free all the things that you believe yourself to have become. And in that, you're also setting him free so he can do the same.
Yeah.
Which is beautiful. It's
Yeah.
beautiful, and if you have a good relationship, you're gonna, still develop together, not as a couple, but as really good friends that can support one another, that knows one another really well, but where the unhooking has happened.
Yeah. Feels really exciting. It feels just like, oh, yes, come on.
Yeah,
It feels like life's like,
yeah,
I'm here.
exciting. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And it's like that for everybody who's here, all of us. It's like that we're still attached to things that makes us view ourselves and the world in a certain way. And some hooks are very easy to detach. And the moment that they are not, attached anymore, it's just freedom. And that is life expressing itself, where there's no limits to it and it can take you anywhere. It's beautiful.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Keep us posted on everything.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to hearing more. Thank you so much,
Thank you,
Sophie.
Sophie.
Thank you.
Oh, it's so nice seeing you.